Please remain standing as we sing our national anthem. You may be seated. I invite the Reverend Dr. Jeff Wilfong Pritchard, Chair of the Academic Senate, to come up and open our ceremonies.
Good evening to you all, and welcome to the 100th Annual Convocation of St. Stephen's College. This is a celebration of the completion of many years of study and practice for many of our students. We honor the land on which we live, the land on which the college and its programming is rooted, the land on which we gather this evening. We acknowledge that we are on Treaty 6 territory, a traditional meeting ground, gathering place, and traveling route for the Cree, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Papachaise, Dene, and Nakota Sioux. We acknowledge all the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit whose footsteps have marked these lands for centuries. As an expression of the college's commitment to living into better and right relationships, we continually work with care, intention, and humility to embody reconciliation. Over the past few years, the college has diversified its faculty, developed curriculum to incorporate Indigenous perspectives, and partnered with and participated in community events that work to decolonize the college's learning community and campus. These are steps along the way. There is much more to be done. By naming these past actions, we acknowledge and we renew publicly the college's commitment to future acts of reconciliation. We gather this evening to observe the ancient rites and rituals of our convocation. We are nurtured by these traditions and our ongoing search for transformation. Let all good, meaningful customs be celebrated this night for the good of all people who strive for justice and wisdom and who express compassion. And I invite Larry Derkach, Chair of the Board of Governors, to come and offer words of welcome.
Well, good evening. As you have just heard, I am Larry Derkach, and I have the honor and privilege of chairing the Board of Governors, along with our eminent Chancellor, Michael Fair, and on behalf of the Board, I extend a warm and wholehearted welcome to all of you at this 100th convocation. Isn't that a great achievement? Welcome, graduands. Welcome, distinguished guests, friends and family, faculty, staff, alumni, and all others who find yourself in the warm embrace of the St. Stephen's College community. Normally, our principal and dean, Dr. Fred Tappenden, would be standing here, but sadly, he is at home knocked flat by a nasty bug. I know it pains him greatly to be missing this most auspicious event in the life of the college, in particular because it marks our 100th convocation. So on Dr. Tappenden's behalf, I want to convey his warm greetings to all of you and his most hearty congratulations to the graduates and to our honorary degree recipient. We wish him a speedy recovery. I extend a special welcome to the Reverend Dr. Faith MacLean, who in addition to receiving the Honourary Doctor of Divinity degree will deliver the convocation address. I have been a friend and at times a colleague of Catherine for a very long time in the work of the United Church in this region. She has deep wisdom and a magical way with words to convey it, and I know we're in for a real treat with her address this evening. We're honored and pleased to have with us the Chancellor of the University of Alberta, Nazar Somji, and not one but two former Chancellors of St. Stephen's College, Alan Scott and the Reverend Dr. Gordon Oakes. So welcome to you all. The atmosphere in this room is bursting with celebration and hope as we express the joy of great achievements that promise to improve the human condition in many ways, in a variety of different places throughout our wider community. Yet we are mindful that just outside of this little bubble of joy is a world that is rife with evil, with war and famine, endangered migrants and refugees, and disasters and pestilence in unimaginable magnitudes. And of course, we can't help but hold some trepidation with the USA election just a few days away. Whatever its outcome, we can expect significant disruption that will no doubt wash over the border in our direction. There are a multitude of reasons to be overwhelmed by fear and despair by the world that we live in, into which today's graduates go out to live their vocations. But fear and despair aren't on tonight's agenda. This doesn't mean that we have chosen to be oblivious to the scary world beyond these walls. On the contrary, we and our graduates in particular are prepared to face it with courage and faith, with skill and perseverance. I offer a quote from an American who isn't running for election, Eleanor Roosevelt. She said, "You gain strength, courage, and confidence by every experience in which you really stop to look fear in the face. You're able to say to yourself, I have lived through this horror. I can take the next thing that comes along. You must do the thing you think you cannot do." Well, I thought this was an apt description for the journey that leads to graduation. It's a journey marked by perplexing uncertainties, persistent challenges, daunting obstacles. You gather your supportive people around you, you face your fears, and you just keep doing the thing you are not completely sure you can do until you succeed in doing it. And here you are, you've done it. Roosevelt's quote is also an apt description for what happens after graduation. There's still much about the future that is uncertain, still many challenges to face and obstacles to overcome. Each one of you has explored your gifts and skills, deepened your capacities to bring healing and wellness and kindness and grace and beauty into places where you can make a meaningful difference in this world. I want to share that this also characterizes my own experience as part of a deeply committed Board of Governors, who along with our principal and dean, faculty, staff, chancellor, and senate, and committees, together have focused their efforts on all the aspects of the college that together contribute to educating the whole person. We are driven by the vision of St. Stephen's College, and I want to remind us of what that is again. We envision a world where spiritual seekers of all faith traditions and worldviews transform their communities into places of greater acceptance, justice, creativity, flourishing, and hope. In pursuit of that vision, among the efforts of this past year has been delving deeper into our commitment to explore how to embed within every aspect of the college's life the principles of equity, diversity, inclusion, and social justice. It's something that gets talked about a lot everywhere you go now, but it's something we strive to make real. This initiative has been guided by our passionate and capable leadership of our Chancellor, Michael Fair. We also adopted a new strategic plan, culminating a 3-year process of extensive discussion and consultation. That plan reflects our deepest values in 5 strategic directions. Number 1, creating greater pathways of access to the college's programming and events. 2, fostering hospitality amongst our students, faculty, staff, and community partners. 3, fostering creative and reflective educational experiences that are student-centered, spiritually and culturally integrative, and which support diverse ways of knowing and learning. 4, becoming more community-facing through greater visibility, engagement, and presence. And 5, witnessing community transformation by inspiring and enacting greater acceptance, justice, creativity, flourishing, and hope in the world. These 5 directions drive us to actions that will lead us toward achieving our vision. My dear graduates, your very presence this evening is a testament to the college's vision, which you are part of making a reality. The milestone that you've arrived at is a great personal accomplishment which you and your loved ones can be justifiably proud. But I tell you, it's bigger than that. It's a declaration and a promise of hope in a world where brokenness exists on a global scale, in the communities where we gather, and in the private spaces of the individuals that you encounter. We missed the presentation of theses and capstones, which didn't take place on this day as they normally do, but there's descriptions in the convocation booklet that I think you picked up when you came in that give a taste of the depth and creativity to your work. I'm excited to think about the impacts you've begun to make in your chosen fields of practice. Congratulations to each and every one of you. I close my remarks with this blessing. May we be filled with the spirit of peace and hope. May we be strengthened and encouraged by the power of community that binds us together. May we be empowered to serve for the lifting up of those who are weary and beset by woe. May we be imbued with strength and hope as we step forward to make a better world. And now, let us proceed with the hallowed rituals of convocation.
It is a long-standing tradition dating back to 1917 that St. Stephen's College will grant honorary degrees in recognition of individuals who enrich the world and who best exemplify the values, mission, and vision that the college upholds. The honorary degree presented this evening recognizes an individual whose achievements over the course of her lifetime have enriched the lives of many in the broader community of Edmonton, Alberta, and across Canada. And I invite the Chancellor and the Board Chair and the Principal in absentia to please gather together at the front of the stage. And I'm also honored to also invite the Reverend Dr. Faith MacLean, who is the candidate for the honorary degree, a Doctor of Divinity, to join them at the front of the stage. The honorary degree that we award tonight, the Doctorate of Divinity, recognizes individuals whose contributions reflect meritorious service, outstanding leadership in denominational or ecumenical contexts, and or outstanding commitment and contribution to ministry, whether ordered or lay. Without question, the individual who we honor this evening is worthy of such recognition. The Reverend Dr. Faith MacLean is recognized with the Honorary Doctor of Divinity degree for her many contributions of leadership and service to faith communities across Canada. Dr. MacLean is nationally regarded for her deep intellect, pragmatic spirit, extensive theological knowledge, vocational enthusiasm, and exceptional capacities as a communicator. Her ministerial career with the United Church of Canada spanned nearly 40 years in Toronto, the Maritimes, Yellowknife, Canmore, and Edmonton. Dr. MacLean hails from the Maritimes, where she was ordained in the Maritime Conference in 1985. She holds a Bachelor of Arts from Dalhousie University in Halifax, Nova Scotia, a Master of Divinity from Harvard Divinity School in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and a Doctor of Ministry from the McCormick Theological Seminary in Chicago, Illinois. She is a two-time recipient of grants from the Louisville Foundation, and C Magazine named her as the most passionate sermonizer in one of its annual Best of Edmonton issues. Dr. MacLean is particularly known for her skill as a communicator, both oral and written. Her doctoral dissertation at McCormick Theological Seminary focused in the area of preaching, and upon completion, she was awarded the Hunt Prize for Outstanding Doctor of Ministry Thesis. As noted by one of her referees, Catherine sees preaching not as the transmission of information or instructions, but as the creation and sustenance of a community of faith. Being together in worship, listening together, and grappling together with ideas not only strengthens the sense of we-ness amongst the congregation, but produces a reservoir of goodwill that will help the community weather times of disagreement and conflict. In her preaching, as in her other work, Catherine is very intentional about creating and sustaining the bonds that will transcend conflicts, rather than covering over conflict or pretending it's not there. As an expression of her communicative brilliance, one of Dr. MacLean's sermons was selected for the forthcoming volume, Moments in Time, Sermons from the United Church of Canada, 1910 to 2020, edited by Hian Kim Craig and Don Schweitzer, United Church of Canada, 2024, which is a collection of homilies that highlight the engagement, impact, and legacy of the United Church on the Canadian religious landscape. Stemming from her communicative spirit, Dr. MacLean has contributed many writings for the edification of faith communities across Canada. She is co-author with John H. Young of Preaching the Big Questions, Doctrine Isn't Dusty, Toronto United Church Publishing House, 2015, and the author of The Triune God in the Theology of the United Church of Canada, Don Schweitzer and Robert C. Fennell and Michael Bourgeois, editors, Waterloo Wilfrid Laurier Press, 2019. As a member of the General Council's Theology and Faith Committee, Dr. MacLean is one of the co-composers of A Song of Faith, United Church of Canada, 2006. And she is also the author of Hope Shines as the Solitary Star, hymn number 220, More Voices United, Toronto, the United Church of Canada Hymnary, 2007. She has also written articles for Touchstone and the Christian Century. Dr. MacLean is an educator and leader within the landscape of academic theology in Canada. She is a long-standing member of the Canadian Theological Society and has served as president of the Society in 2018 to 19. In 2017, Dr. MacLean lectured on diversity at the Peter Lougheed Lectures, Peter Lougheed Leadership College, University of Alberta. She has taught courses at various graduate theological colleges, including St. Stephen's College, the Vancouver School of Theology, and the Atlantic School of Theology. Throughout her career, Dr. MacLean has served the wider church in Canada with intention and care and duty. She served as a commissioner at 2 general councils, is a past chair of the new ministry's development team, what was formerly known as the Edmonton Presbytery, and served on various national committees. In 2018, she was a nominee for moderator of the United Church of Canada. More recently, she was one of 2 Canadian delegates at the World Council of Churches, meeting in Karlsruhe, Germany in 2022. Dr. MacLean has also been active in the Revitalize conferences that bring clergy and lay people from various denominations and faith traditions together to learn from one another. Though her national engagement is broad, Dr. MacLean is most appreciated by her beloved faith community of St. Paul's United Church in Belgravia, Edmonton, where she served as senior minister for 20 years until her retirement in 2023. Dr. MacLean's justice work in championing diversity in St. Paul's congregation has been a beacon shining beyond the walls of the building. Under her shepherding, St. Paul's became known as a safe, welcoming, and nurturing place. More recently, in the midst of the COVID-19 global pandemic, Dr. MacLean met the challenges of lockdowns with calm, compassion, and thoughtfulness. She developed innovative worship services that were filmed in various locations around Edmonton And as the world closed down, Dr. MacLean ventured out with phone, camera, and tripod in hand, recording reflections and readings in various parts of the city in all sorts of weather. She kept St. Paul's connected and reassured by bringing the city and its communities into the homes of those worshiping through their computer screens. Eminent Chancellor, I present to you Catherine Faith MacLean, who, having satisfied the requirements as set forth by St. Stephen's College, is entitled to be admitted to the honorary degree, Doctor of Divinity, and to share in the rights, privileges, and dignities which pertain to that degree. And I now invite Dr. MacLean to offer us the convocation address, Making Meaning in Times of Tension. Dr. MacLean.
Chancellor Semji, Chancellor Fair, Principal and Dean Tappenden in absentia, Larry Durkach, Chair of the Board of Governors, Reverend Professor Jeffrey Wilfong Pritchard, Chair of the Senate, members of faculty, members of the Board of Governors, members of the Academic Senate of St. Stephen's College, honored graduates, Doctor of Ministry, Doctor of Theological Studies, Master of Theological Studies, Master of Psychotherapy and Spirituality, Master of Psychotherapy and Spirituality with an Art Therapy specialization, Graduate Certificate in Spiritually Informed Creative Arts, Graduate Certificate in Spiritually Informed Psychotherapy, Graduate Certificate in Theological Studies. Proud families who bring with you patience over time and delight at completion. Supportive friends who listened to intellectual questions and played with ideas. Welcome guests who are enjoying the hospitality and the character of St. Stephen's College. Thank you all. At this 100th annual Convocation of St. Stephen's College, I am deeply honored to receive the gift of an Honorary Doctor of Divinity. I bring personal thanks to my family, Earl, Andrew and Hannah, Courtney and Adam. You are there with perseverance and support and encouragement as I respond to requests from church and community, requests that take time and energy and devotion. You listen to my ideas and you laugh with me at my mistakes. Thank you. I love you very much. I am grateful to friends who engage ideas and who are interested in intellectual pursuits and who enjoy having fun and telling stories and living the tensions of the lives we share. This nomination was written by members of St. Paul's United Church, with whom I had the distinct pleasure of 20 years of ministry. St. Paul's is a short walk from here across two busy streets. Leadership at St. Paul's was a partnership, and I cherish it. St. Paul's is a congregation that engages in intellectual rigor, whether it is questions of stewardship, or annual programming, or recruitment, or say details of the usefulness of a mezzanine, questions of making meaning are always on the surface. Good governance allows for rigor in questions of faith, and the rigor of questions of faith allows for personal growth, community effectiveness, and robust energies for social justice. Thank you, members of St. Paul's. I bring so much gratitude. St. Stephen's College has a remarkable character of openness. The willingness this academic community has to offer introspection into its own character, held in balance with the understood needs of the wider community, is remarkable. It is indeed a remarkable character to be open, not merely in the sense of, let's figure out who you are since you're my neighbor, so you must be similar to me, let's figure out commonalities, but in a deeper sense of who you are as my neighbor, and so I am interested to understand you. It's a remarkable character in an academic institution to make that into an academic discipline and to bring to it the diligence of intellectual study. Infused at St. Stephen's College with this openness is a sense of awe, a respect for transcendence, and an awareness of how dangerous and divisive the wildness of spirituality can be, how dangerous and divisive the wildness of spirituality can be. I think of the crows that greet us as we walk around this city, and there is something about crows that look for treasure. We look for treasure. I think of the ravens who imitate my very own voice, and I understand them in part to be mythological guide. And the third large bird that takes up space with us here around the North Saskatchewan are the magpies. And maybe you can tell me the benefit of magpies. I wish to think with you for a few minutes about making meaning in times of tension. Making meaning in times of tension. St. Stephen's College is a place for theological study, called to make meaning, to the engagement of deep thought about the essential, fundamental, existential dilemmas of our lives, which are, who are we? What is holy? Who cares? And why? And, as board and Senate members, why should we provide infrastructure for questions that are as destabilizing as these? Who are we? What is holy? Who cares? And why? These are destabilizing questions. Making meaning in the face of that is the essential business of theology. It is the capacity of the intellect, an intellect somewhat in awe of the transcendence of the divine, to stare into the beauty of the North Saskatchewan River curving its way through the city, or to walk beside the Black Mud Creek beginning to ice over in this season, or to look up through the limbs of the elms, stark and leafless now against the sky, and ask ourselves, why? It is the capacity of the intellect, an intellect somewhat in awe of the transcendence of the divine, to hear the shouts at a political rally, to listen to the news on the radio at the top of the hour, to understand the request for funds from a figure huddled on a street corner downtown, to take in the harmonies of hymns lifted in exultation, to wonder at the profundity of poetics, and to ask, why? It is in the capacity of the intellect, an intellect somewhat in awe of the transcendence of the divine, to read the writings of medieval theologians, to translate the words of the psalmist, to stand in front of a congregation and speak sacred words of a sermon, and to address the question, why? Making meaning is the essential business of theology. Over 100 years, this college has been called to make meaning in great times of tension. We know our current tensions. I think Charlie Warzel, writing in The Atlantic 2 weeks ago, summarized it best. I am running out of ways of explaining how bad this is. Isn't that a great title for an essay? I'm running out of ways of explaining how bad this is. And he goes on to observe persons and groups who are dissociating themselves with reality, fabricating understandings of individuals and community and truth and values. I'm running out of ways to explain how bad this is. In the face of that, making meaning is the essential business of theology. Sometimes I am tempted to think that things that now threaten us are as bad as they could possibly be. I admit, I say this on a beautiful day, where I carried my gloves in my pocket and did not need to wear them, where I had a wonderful meal with friends, a brunch here with many of you, where I can walk safely across campus to come here and join with you. I confess that that is part of my day, and yet I also confess to you that sometimes I am tempted to think that things are as bad as they can possibly be. And I am reminded in studies of theology and scripture and ethics that this is not necessarily the case. Our forebears have lived in times of tension. The cross, the captivity in Babylon, the search for a promised land, the martyrdom of the saints, but for the purposes of today, for the purposes of celebrating 100 years of making meaning in times of tension, let's just think briefly, I promise you it's brief, about the times of tension through which this academic institution has been making meaning. After the Great War, the war to end all wars, and the pandemic that came with it, we remember 1929 and poverty and the loss of hope and possibilities. Those were thin on the ground in the Great Depression. And we don't forget the rise of fascism that came out of these anxieties, some of which were the result of military victories. And after some singular defeats of fascism, the rise in economic possibilities for some was also in great tension with the subjugation of others through racism, sexism, and the obligation presented by the culture for those who had First Nations or immigrant identities to be subjugated to concepts of what was dominant. Tensions, historic tensions. And through times of tension, times of the threat of nuclear war, times of the biological emancipation of the pill, through the practice of learning other languages, through the singing of someone else's song, faithful people were making meaning. Faithful people were making meaning, and the dedication to intellectual rigor provided sustenance for those endeavors. That is why board and Senate members provide infrastructure for the questions that are destabilizing. Who are we? What is holy? Who cares and why? That's why congregational worship committees and stewardship speakers provide infrastructure for questions that are destabilizing. Who are we? What is holy? Who cares and why? And we know why, don't we? 3 words. 3 words that initially come from Leviticus 19. 3 words that Jesus repeats. 3 words that St. Paul writes to the Galatians and then to the Romans. Love your neighbor. Love your neighbor, which is dangerously clear and demonstrably difficult. Love your neighbor. Dangerously clear and demonstrably difficult. Love your neighbor, the modus operandi of all religious traditions, in which so many of our tensions and divides reside. We're going to look for a brief moment at where those 3 words come up in one of the books that I know the best in the stories of Jesus. An expert of the law stood up to test Jesus. "Teacher, Rabbi," he said, "what must I do to inherit eternal life?" Some of you know this so well you could repeat it with me. He said to him, "What is written in the law? What do you read there?" He answered, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your mind, and with all your soul, and with all your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself." And Jesus said to him, "You have given the right answer. Do this, and you will live." But wanting to vindicate himself, could he have been an academic? Wanting to vindicate himself, could he have been a teacher? Wanting to vindicate himself, keeping the conversation going, looking how to focus it, making it more definitive and less general, getting to the root of where it would go, those 3 simple words. He asked Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" Jesus replied, "A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell into the hands of robbers." You know the story. The Good Samaritan, the most popular of the Christian stories, the Good Samaritan, the story of the one person, the stranger, the foreigner, the enemy, who in fact helped the man who was robbed and beaten and left for dead at the side of the road. Love your neighbor. And who, says Jesus, was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers? He said, "The one who showed him mercy." Jesus said, "Go and do likewise. Love your neighbor." Dangerously clear and demonstratively difficult. Who is my neighbor? People who think the way I do, who share my values, who live in a way that I do. Those who are so different from me, perhaps, then, that their basic understanding of humankind, of personhood, of value differs significantly from mine. That is demonstrably difficult. It's so much easier for me to malign that person. I have all kinds of bad words I can use to define that understanding of humankind and community and personhood. That's not what I'm called to do. I am living in a time of tension and attempting to make meaning about persons whose basic fundamental understanding of humankind, personhood, and value are not mine and don't come anywhere close. Do you see why this is demonstrably difficult? And in the middle of these times of tension and trying to make meaning with neighbors who are so fundamentally different from us, we find communities where we can ask those questions. Those fundamental questions. Who are we anyway? What is holy? Who cares? And why? It's a lot easier just to go home and be myself. But no. We gaze across divides at neighbors and we wonder how to make meaning in times of tension. It takes trust. It takes relationship. And relationships are unpredictable. Relationships are unpredictable with the people we know. The best relationships are truly unpredictable with people whose values we do not share or understand. And then, some of us who spend our daylight hours flipping through pages of theology to get a good quote for a paper, or a meaningful understanding for a sermon, or something that we can bring to friends and colleagues in an academic conference. Some of us who are Christian find our way into it. You know exactly where I am going. I am going into holy relationship and the Holy Trinity, which is a mind-boggling image of God as relationship. The Creator and Sustainer, the Redeemer, and the Holy Spirit, relationship moving all the time. And because they have relationship, we can have relationship, and we can get stuff done, even though we are not one and the same. Over the tensions and divides, we have one another. And so whether it is the Christian doctrine of the Trinity that you decide you're going to write a paper about, or you're going to bring in a prayer, or you're going to take off to the banks of the North Saskatchewan while you're on a walk with your dog, or whether it is something from another religious tradition that inspires your imagination, because so much of faith is about imaginative possibility, we come to a community. Perhaps it's a faith community. Perhaps it is an academic community where intellectual pursuit and value of the person go hand in hand in learning. That's why I have confidence in this time of tension. On the surface, there's not a lot to have confidence in. In the depth of things, we have one another in whom to have deep confidence as we make meaning in times of tension. Intellectual rigor and love for humankind make faith communities inspiring. The infrastructure provided by the Academy makes for the pursuit of these questions in ways that are orderly and then generative. And it makes for fun, and fun is good. A friend wrote to me this weekend to tell me how proud my parents would be of me today. That warms my heart. John doesn't know my parents, and they are both deceased. They lived vocations of loving neighbors. My mother left Prince Edward Island in 1953 to go as a missionary to Japan. Many people she knew had fought in the recent war, and they fought in Japan, and they had been prisoners of war. She went, they understood, into the hands of the enemy to love her neighbors. My father took on work to raise young leaders who would find ways to lead without totalitarianism. His career as an ordained minister took him into places of tension in pastoral care, in community conflict, in the growing understandings of divorce and sexual identity. Loving his neighbor. I carry on from a generation whose dedicated work was to prevent fresh eruptions of fascism. The graduates we celebrate here today in this generation carry on to make meaning in times of tension in your own places and through your own expertise. You will guide us as we figure out the importance of spirituality in the lives of adults with disability, and how church and pastors can improve their ministries to meet their spiritual needs. Thank you, Stephen Shapito. A Doctor of Ministry thesis is a very big effort. Others among you guide us in places we need to go. You guide us into exploring spirituality in a multi-faith practice. You guide us into embodiment. You guide us into self-awareness. You guide us into art therapy for children with trauma. You guide us into psychotherapy as care for the soul. You guide us into design and neurobiology. You guide us in a spiritually integrated group of art therapy for bereavement grief. You guide us in dismantling fat phobia. You guide us in counseling through early stage dementia. You guide us in moving beyond Western-centric paradigms for grief therapy. You guide us in integrating transformational experiences. You guide us in mindful-based art therapies for adolescents. You guide us in a mindfulness journey for youth in comics. Thank you. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your diligence. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for stepping forward with diligence and perseverance and friends and family so that you can guide us. We are celebrating the intellectual rigor of making meaning. We are acknowledging the academic tensions out of which these questions come and the personal, communal, and cultural tensions out of which you are able to make meaning and help us move forward as a better community. We celebrate what you have done. This Doctor of Divinity degree is a gift I cherish. You have honored me, and I am both grateful and aware that this gift is an opportunity to think with you about the rigors of making meaning in times of tension. And when you leave this place later this evening after much celebration, when you rise in the morning and you realize that you have a treasure in your degree, when you realize that you have a guide among you in your family and your friend group, when you realize there are things that you don't yet know, perhaps the crows will leave their caw on the wind and the wind will change. The North Saskatchewan River curves through the city, and the Black Mud Creek is beginning to ice over. The limbs of the elms are stark and leafless now against the sky. The ravens shout their words into the wind, and the wind changes. On the plaza downtown, the crowd shouts at a rally, and a lone voice begins to sing, "We shall overcome." The magpies interrupt the calm evening with their shriek, and the wind changes. A church door flies open in the wind, and voices in choir practice are heard on the street. Holy, holy, holy. The crows leave their caw on the wind, and the wind changes. A student, bundled in toque and scarf, makes a way across the quad past this hall, wondering at the lights and our banners and our crowd. The ravens shout their words into the wind, and the wind changes. The magpies interrupt the calm evening with their shriek, and the wind changes. And together, we seek meaning in the great questions: why are we? What is holy? Who cares and why? Together, for we cannot do it alone. Together along the North Saskatchewan, running through the city, as the Black Mud Creek begins to ice over, now that the limbs of the elm are stark and leafless now against the sky, together, we, you and I, carry on, and we make meaning in these times of tension. Thank you.
And thank you, Catherine, for engaging us in making meaning in this time and in this place. And I am pleased to invite to the stage Sherry Steele, who will be our musical performer for tonight. Originally from London, Ontario, Sherry is a graduate of the University of Western Ontario and has performed with orchestras and in musical theatre throughout Canada and toured internationally as a featured singer in Riverdance, the show. Sherry also performed with the Broadway company of Riverdance at the Gershwin Theatre for more than a year. And Sherry has been teaching piano and voice for more than 30 years, most recently at the Don Wright Faculty of Music at Western University, and currently at the University of Alberta. She is also an adjudicator, conductor with the Cantillon Kindersingers, an arts administrator, the general manager of Cantillon Choirs, and she maintains a home studio with aspiring musicians of all ages.
Thank you so much. When I first met Catherine, I was the recipient of her ministry at St. Paul's United Church. Over the years, I've been blessed to also call her a colleague, a mentor, and a friend. I'm very thrilled to be asked to sing tonight. So I decided to put together a little medley of Catherine's favorite hymns. Now, I did not consult Catherine about what her favorite hymns might be, because Catherine really loves hymns. She's very passionate about them, and I fear the list might be too long. I did consult others, and I've collated just a few to share with you today. If you've ever been in Catherine's presence when she is singing hymns, it is no exaggeration to say that she sings with her whole body and soul. She just becomes embodied with the poetry and the music. It's quite a wonderful energy to be around. So I've picked a few. One of them is actually one of my favorite hymns that we sing every year at Advent. Kind of embarrassed to say that it's only fairly recently that I read the fine print in More Voices and realized that Catherine had written the words. And then I thought, well, that makes sense. No wonder I love it so much. By all means, if you want to sing along, join in. Hope shines as a solitary star. Faith is the inner light. You and I together mirror the light of lights and illumine the pathway home. Guide me, O thou great and holy pilgrim, through this barren land. I am weak, but thou art mighty. Hold me with thy powerful hand. Bread of heaven, feed me till I want no more. Feed me till I want no more. Firstborn of Mary, provocative preacher, itinerant teacher, outsider's choice. Jesus inspires and disarms and confuses wherever he chooses to hear his voice. Peace shines as the solitary star. Faith is the inner light. You and I together mirror the light of lights and illumine the pathway home. Spirit, open my heart to the joy and peace
heart that's kind and kinder, all my calmness and fear, to your grace I now surrender. Joy shines as the solitary star, faith is the inner light. You and I together mirror the light of lights and illumine the pathway home. Spirit, open my heart to the joy and pain of living. As you love me, I love in receiving and in giving. Spirit, open my heart. Love shines as the solitary star, faith is the inner light. You and I together mirror the light of lights and illumine the pathway home.
We will now confer the degrees and certificates upon our graduating students. Graduands, you will be called one by one according to your degree or certificate program. And at this time, would you please rise and access the stage via the stairs to my right? And while the graduates are accessing the stage, I invite Dr. Cheryl Johnson and Dr. Kahinde Oblapton to come to the podium, and I invite the Chancellor and Chair of the Board to join me at the front of the stage.
We will begin for admittance to the degree Doctor of Ministry. Eminent Chancellor, I present to you Oluteu Stephen Shadapo, who, having satisfied the requirements as set forth by St. Stephen's College, is entitled to be admitted to the degree Doctor of Ministry and to share in the rights, privileges, and responsibilities which pertain to that degree.
For admittance to the degree Master of Theological Studies, Eminent Chancellor, I present to you Claudia Garcia Martinez in absentia, who, having satisfied the requirements set forth by St. Stephen's College, is entitled to be admitted to the degrees Master of Theological Studies and to share in the rights, privileges, and responsibilities which pertain thereto. To receive the graduate certificate in theological studies, Eminent Chancellor, I present to you John Wilson in absentia, who, having satisfied the requirements as set forth by St. Stephen's College, is entitled to receive the graduate certificate in theological studies. Daniel Charon and Murray Modridge, will you please come forward and present graduates in the Department of Psychotherapy and Spirituality.
For admittance to the degree Master of Psychotherapy and Spirituality. Eminent Chancellor, I present to you Aaron Antoniak. Who, having satisfied the requirements as set forth by St. Stephen's College, is entitled to be admitted to the degree Master of Psychotherapy and Spirituality, and to share in the rights, privileges, and responsibilities which pertain to that degree. Eminent Chancellor, I present to you Cassandra Yanovsky. Who, having satisfied the requirements as set forth by St. Stephen's College, is entitled to be admitted to the degree Master of Psychotherapy and Spirituality, and to share in the rights, privileges, and responsibilities which pertain to that degree. Eminent Chancellor, I present to you Anne Moyles. Who, having satisfied the requirements as set forth by St. Stephen's College, is entitled to be admitted to the degree Master of Psychotherapy and Spirituality, and to share in the rights, privileges, and responsibilities which pertain to that degree. Eminent Chancellor, I present to you Aisha Notier. Who, having satisfied the requirements as set forth by St. Stephen's College, is entitled to be admitted to the degree Master of Psychotherapy and Spirituality, and to share in the rights, privileges, and responsibilities which pertain to that degree. Eminent Chancellor, I present to you Miranda Dolphin, in absentia, Jocelyn Kilbourne, in absentia, and Jennifer McKeever, in absentia, who, having satisfied the requirements as set forth by St. Stephen's College, are entitled to be admitted to the degree Master of Psychotherapy and Spirituality, and to share in the rights, privileges, and responsibilities which pertain to that degree.
Eminent Chancellor, I present to you Sandra Chapman. Who, having satisfied the requirements as set forth by St. Stephen's College, is entitled to be admitted to the degree of Master of Psychotherapy and Spirituality, Art Therapy Specialization, and to share in the rights, privileges, and responsibility which pertain to that degree. Eminent Chancellor, I present to you Jennifer Korchinski. Who, having satisfied the requirements as set forth by St. Stephen's College, is entitled to be admitted to the degree Master of Psychotherapy and Spirituality, Art Therapy Specialization, and to share in the rights, privileges, and responsibilities which pertain to that degree. Eminent Chancellor, I present to you Jessica Potter. having satisfied the requirements as set forth by St. Stephen's College, is entitled to be admitted to the degree Master of Psychotherapy and Spirituality, Art Therapy Specialization, and to share in the rights, privileges, and responsibilities which pertain to that degree. Eminent Chancellor, I present to you Kristen Powell. Who, having satisfied the requirements as set forth by St. Stephen's College, is entitled to be admitted to the degree Master of Psychotherapy and Spirituality, Art Therapy Specialization, and to share in the rights, privileges, and responsibilities which pertain to that degree. Eminent Chancellor, I present to you Brianne McDaniel in absentia, who has satisfied the requirements as set forth by St. Stephen's College, is entitled to be admitted to the degree Master of Psychotherapy and Spirituality, Art Therapy Specialization, and to share in the rights, privileges, and responsibilities which pertain to that degree.
To receive the Graduate Certificate in Spiritually Informed Psychotherapy, Eminent Chancellor, I present to you Emily Brower in absentia and Carol Marriott in absentia, who have satisfied the requirements as set forth by St. Stephen's College, are entitled to receive the Graduate Certificate in Spiritually Informed Psychotherapy.
To receive the Graduate Certificate in Spiritually Informed Creative Arts, Eminent Chancellor, I present to you Winty Fu in absentia, Laura Roberts in absentia, Adolfo Ruiz in absentia, who, having satisfied the requirements as set forth by St. Stephen's College, are entitled to receive Graduate Certificate in Spiritually Informed Creative Arts.
Eminent Chancellor, will you please formally confer upon the individuals named this evening the degrees or certificates to which they have been named?
I think since it's the 100th anniversary and we have a second chancellor here who's just taken over, I'd invite you to join me on this very special occasion. You have two chancellors, all of you who are here, and those who are not here. By the virtue of the authority vested in St. Stephen's College by the province of Alberta, with the consent of the Academic Senate of the College, and having regard for your many contributions, both earned and recognized, I confer upon each of you the degree or certificate to which you are entitled. Thank you. Thank you.
Graduates, congratulations. Honorary degree recipient, congratulations. This has been a full and joyous occasion, and I'm grateful that we've been able to join together in person to celebrate the many accomplishments of the college community. And as you leave the campus this evening, be sure to take a drive across our city's iconic high-level bridge. We've arranged with the City of Edmonton that the lights on the high-level bridge tonight will be illuminated in the colors of St. Stephen's College, which are purple, green, and gold. And I encourage everyone this evening to enjoy the lights of the bridge and to bask in the glow of the successes of our graduating students. Once again, congratulations. And as we process out of the hall, I'd ask the graduates to please follow after the platform party, and the audience then to exit the hall after the graduates. And as we close, may wisdom continue to call to us in the marketplace, in the classroom, in the art studio, in the counseling office. May the house that wisdom builds out of the pillars of our imaginations and creativity be a sheltering place for the world. And may the feast that wisdom sets at her table continue to nourish, inspire, and transform us in all our ministries and vocations. Amen.